So I'm going to talk about success in medicine. I think that, as Lenny said, we are successful, we are pretty good at what we do, but there are these reminders that we're often not successful. And it happens often because of time and money, because of complacency, because of compromise, and usually in the setting of difficult cases, which we like to forget. It's those difficult cases, I think, that remind us of the crosswords of sort of morality in medicine. So the question is, do you or could you, at the end of every day, answer the question, did I meet the medical needs of my patient today? Or have you ever heard the unfortunate words, as I heard this week, medicine has failed me? I think that, we're good at complex disease. That's what we're very comfortable in that space, and not many people are. Lenny talked about it yesterday, why rheumatologists are part of a team with oncologists to manage those very complex IRAEs. But what are we also really good at? When I asked you what is a physician for in a Twitter poll, the vast majority of answers were to treat. And that's sort of interesting. The physician is a healer, he's a biologist, as Rich said earlier, gatekeeper and advisor. And I think that those are all roles that we play. I think, again, rheumatologists play an important role because we're problem solvers. We like that blend of science and biology and immunology and medicine. We like the sort of the hand-holding approach that we have that forms these really strong and long-lasting relationships with our patients. But when I asked many of you a poll question a few years ago, what was the reason you went into medicine and really into rheumatology, you said it was a mentor and a teacher that sort of took you down that path. So physician, teachers, preachers, tutors, doesn't really matter, they're all coaches. And when they're good, they're all good coaches, and they change the lives of individuals. So what's a coach? It's something that gets you from here to there. If you're a good coach, you're an educator, a motivator, a taskmaster, a catalyst, a game changer. And when you're game changing, it's because you succeeded. You found what you thought was perfection. You found what you were striving for. I need my slides for this. So Vince Lombardi said, perfection is not attainable, but we chase perfection when we catch excellence. I think to be a coach is to be important in someone's life. Often the relationships that a coach has with someone is often quite emotional. It comes at important times of your life. Great coaches, I think, sort of are masters of competition. The question is, what's your competition? It's certainly not going to be patience. That would be a bad venture. It's really going to be the disease. It's going to be time, and often yourself and your own habits and proclivities that that complacency and compromise. Great coaches have a sort of very narrow focus. They're laser focused. They're single-minded in their pursuit of success. If you study coaches, the interesting thing you'll see is that coaches love coaches. They love studying coaches, their whole history, how they got to where they are, why they succeeded, what made them fail. They love when they fail. They love to copy them. They love to actually scout them and scout themselves as a way of beating those coaches. Again, coaches are all about being better at someone else who's also a coach, and they also love their mistakes. Mistakes are really important. They're learning lessons. Learn from the mistakes of others. You can never live long enough to make them all yourself. That's probably true in coaching as well as in comedy. If you study coaches, you'll see that they're really big on strategy and tactics. When their players are out training and getting fit for next season, they're off wearing Confederate uniforms, running around on some hill with fake guns to study sort of military intelligence from the Civil War as some means of getting an edge. They think, of course, that there's this big mental aspect, and it is, because they're great at the physical, and they hire the best players and whatnot, but it is the mental aspect that they constantly have to overcome. So they are maniacal in their pursuit of excellence, in their study, in their preparation. As you know, coaches are always big on practice, practice, practice. So what are great coaches? They're actually great learners. They like great players, great students, great patients. But when you ask a great coach about his success story, it's not going to be his superstar. It's going to be that person who was not a superstar, that person who sort of transformed themselves through effort and study to become the excellent player or team player that they became. Some think that championships are what build great coaches, and that's just usually attached to being great coaches. But I'll tell you that actually the desire to win is mainly fueled by failure. And we all fail. Coaches fail, players fail. My greatest failure is a patient named Regina. Regina came to me when I was at the end of my fellowship at the county hospital. She was in her 20s. I don't know how she got into my clinic, which is the county clinic, because she was sort of well-to-do, well-dressed, attractive, smart, funny, wonderful woman stricken with rheumatoid arthritis. And we went through all the things we went through in the 80s. She got gold, and then many years later, she ended up on biologics. But in between, it's a horror story. She never got better. She always failed. We tried one thing and another. She went through all the combinations, all the drugs. She had multiple surgeries. She went from being this very bright, young, attractive, brilliant, funny woman to some, 12, 15 years later to being still that same woman, but in a different body. She was frail. She was stiff. She moved slowly. She had the same smile. And, it's a big failing for me when she told me, Cush, the only thing that you ever gave me that worked was, this is all wrong. She said, the only thing that ever worked in me was sex and pregnancy, because I didn't give her those things. She had a great husband for those things. But, that's the only time she had relief. And amazingly, this horribly complex disease, which was never under control, did go under control during pregnancy. It's a mystery to me. Anyway, I, as her coach, after we finally put her on a biologic and she was really doing much better, said, you had that one knee, it's a mess, it's wonky, you can't walk on it, get it replaced. She got it replaced, she died on day 3. Yeah, that's how I felt. Magnify that by 1,000. So the family was devastated, the staff took care of her, they were all devastated, and it sort of had this tremendous, long-lasting effect. And I remember it because it's the thing that I should always remember to be better at what I do. And so that's where I need to be a good coach. I need some good coaching of my own. So what I learned from many patient experiences, it's very, very hard to be a patient. It's real easy to be a physician. I mean, what do? We spend a lifetime preparing for the next patient, the next prescription. We have rules like see one, do one, teach one. What does the patient have as a mnemonic? They got nothing. They got, feel it, live it, get beaten down by it, and they don't know what it is. And so they come to you, and they come to you because they need truth, they need relief, they want knowledge more so than a pill. So your patient needs a coach. Especially the early ones, the new ones, especially the really sick ones, they all need coaches. But hey, everyone needs a coach. Roni Cavanaugh is a bright, smart, funny rheumatologist, a good friend from Galway. He's a great writer. You should look up his stuff. He's got his own event called .med that you should look up. And he wrote a great blog for me for RheumNow in 2018. It was called The Midlife Plateau. And it was modeled after what happened with, as was just mentioned, the great writer, surgeon, sort of leader, Atul Gawande, who wrote about or spoke about his experience in hiring a coach. He hired an ex-professor to follow him around and give him new guidelines. He had sort of hit the pinnacle of his career, but he wanted to do better, and he learned new things. So Ronan said he was going to do the same thing. So Ronan writes, in my 50s, as a rheumatologist, I'm at the stage in my career that I think I know where the potholes and the blind alleys are, and I'm comfortable enough in my own abilities to know when I'm out of my depth. I have hit a sweet spot of sorts. As a result of this experience, he learned 4 things. A few days with his mentor, he learned the power of the pause when listening and talking to patients. He learned the importance of caution when examining a patient who has inflammatory arthritis who also happens to be chubby. He heard of the importance of pre-reading a patient's note before you go into the room. And lastly, the importance of the word seronegative was really an opportunity to rethink the diagnosis at every visit, or at least rethink their therapy. So yes, we all need coaches, and we all need to learn from coaches, but who is your coach? You don't have a coach. I'd say that your best version of coaching is, one, your RVU reports, and two, your online reviews. Not so good when they say he had the personality of a deaf, distracted gargoyle. That's not mine, by the way. It's someone else's. So everyone needs a coach. Bill Gates says it doesn't matter whether you're a basketball player, tennis player, a gymnast, or a bridge player. Fortune 500 CEOs need coaches. Serena Williams needs a coach to still win yet another Wimbledon. Jack Mead playing youth hockey, he needs a coach. Everyone needs a coach if the goal is to succeed and to get better. So those same traits that So to be a great coach, you have to be a great doctor. So what are the traits of a great doctor? There's a few. My Uncle Bill, who's going through colon surgery, says, and he hates physicians, he hates medicine, hospitals, but he's going through it because that's his pathway. He says a great doctor is someone who has personality and who cares, gives a damn. Catherine Dow, my partner, when dealing with a sort of lackluster speed bump of a medical student and was frustrated by him, she said, you know what being a great doctor is? It means having curiosity and never giving less than 100%. Those are the same traits that we have between coaches and physicians. So to be a great coach, you need different characteristics for different patients. No coach is the same in their style that led them to success. I mean, if you look at Lombardi, it was all about discipline. If you look at Bill Belichick, who just won his 6th Super Bowl, his success is actually changing the game plan almost weekly and developing great undiscovered talent. Bill Parcells, one of my favorite coaches from the Giants, was known for being sort of a caustic, edgy guy, and that was his way of getting the attention of his players. When he was a college coach, he would take a pebble and put it in his sneaker before every practice because he wanted to maintain that edge. He told his other coaches it was a training mechanism for alertness. But it was more than that. He had that personality of being a nasty guy, but he would also go to their homes and talk to them about their personal problems, their drug problems, their money problems, and sort of bond with them in that way as well. So if you want to be a great coach, there's a tremendous challenge at hand. The problem is that the odds are against you. If you're a know-it-all physician, well, in Texas we'd say, bless your heart. But if you're not, that means that you're someone who's probably a learn-it-all and there's probably hope for you. Patients often say that my doctor treats my disease and not me. A great coach would be treating the patient and not the disease. The New York Times says that half of Americans have a major deficit in health literacy. So they have a problem, and as such, they are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're fearful of everything that they have to engage. They're fearful of medicines. That's why they're so non-compliant. You heard about less than 40% or 60% non-compliance with lupus in hydroxychloroquine. There's the Consumer Reports study that says that new patients going to a primary care doctor getting a first prescription, 50% go unfilled. And of the 50% that go filled, less than half of them are taking it correctly. So they're fearful. Fred Wolf actually wrote about this a few years ago when he did a thing on patient attitudes and said they're fearful of change because of what they don't know. They'd rather stick with what they're using, dance with the one that brung you. Little did he know that he was reproducing the work of Daniel Ellsberg, who wrote about the Ellsberg Paradox, which was about ambiguity aversion, meaning sticking with that which you know and rejecting the things that you don't understand. This is how patients operate. It's a major thing to overcome. I was riding around the other day in a car, and I heard someone on the radio say something like, for once I wish I could go to a doctor who would come attached to a lie detector. Another patient writes, my doctor is someone who tells me to do things, and when I have to then grapple with, is this good advice for me or not? Can I find a better way or not? How do I know it's going to work in me, or how will he know what will work in me when he doesn't even know me? So there's a problem of belief and trust that we have to overcome, and that doesn't come quickly and easily. Trust is something born of time and persistence and proof, and that's what it takes to be a great coach. So I'll leave you with some ideas about becoming a great coach. Oh, trust. You know, we can believe in maybe money, but trust in physicians doesn't come quite as easy. So again, to be a great coach, you could use the acronym COACH. C stands for being a catalyst for change. If not you, then who? O is ongoing effort. It never stops. Practice, practice, practice is how you get to Juilliard. It's also how you become a great patient. Patients hear everything. You need to know that it's the small things that you do that's going to have a long-lasting ripple effect on their outcomes. A is for ass and actor. Number one, don't be an ass. That doesn't work with anyone. You can have a personality, but don't be an ass. And two, be an actor, meaning go to work every day with the best performance ever. With that, you have a chance of actually changing the hearts and minds of patients. Patients don't hear your facts. They learn from emotion. They don't hear what you say, they remember how you made them feel. This takes quite a performance to actually have a big impact on someone. C is communicate. Be sort of consistent, clear, concise. You have to slow down, you have to write it down, you have to get down to the things that patients need to hear. And you have to listen to know what it is they need to hear. And lastly, be human, meaning meet them in the waiting room. Talk to them as they're checking out. Hug them, fist bump them, talk to them at Costco when you see them. You know, when they find out that you're human, then they're going to trust you more. So this talk was a lot about sports, and I apologize for the analogy, but sport is a great analogy for both life and medicine. I was going to use crochet, but the needles were painful. So sports, life, and medicine comes with both success and setbacks. A great coach sort of masters and strives for success and has a plan for setbacks. Your patients need you. You can get them from here to there because you're their coach. Thank you.